It is my pleasure to welcome you to the third part of the crash course International Marketing. This third video lecture is about creating value in international markets. If you like to brush up your knowledge on this topic in general, I recommend you use the sections 4, 6, and 7 of the crash course Marketing, which you find on my website godberson.online. If you want to dive deeper into international marketing, then as usual, I recommend the book Global Marketing by Hollandson and Bogdanovich. When creating value in international markets, one should look at two levels. Firstly, it is the international product or brand portfolio. Normally, a company does not have only one product it offers. And in the realm of international business, a company is normally not operating only one foreign market, but in multiple foreign markets. So we should understand the traditional product or brand portfolio rather as a product country portfolio. You have multiple products and you're operating in multiple countries around the world. But it's not only looking how's my product portfolio or product country portfolio performing. Of course, you need to go into details and look at the individual products and brands. And there it is product or brand management and pricing. Let me go back a step, or let me take back a step to the basics. When does a market work out and when does a business model work out? That is when the price of the product is higher than the cost so that the company can turn a profit. But customers will only buy this product or brand if their net utility, their value they get out of the product is higher than the price and the additional customer cost. Now, typically, and in a simplifying way, one could say that everything that is directed towards creating value to customer is not exclusively, but rather product or brand management, whilst everything that is related to the price is international pricing in our case. First, let's go to international product country portfolio management. And I would like to introduce this topic through the lens of strategic business unit analysis and management. Thus, it is a very good idea that I tell you what is a strategic business unit. A strategic business unit is a business or collection of businesses which to a certain degree can be planned and operated independently from the rest of the company. One could say, I understand a business unit as a company within a company. And there you can say, with our perspective of country product combinations, that a product that I want to market in a certain country is one business unit. Back to the basics, how can you define a business unit or a business? You have two approaches. You can define your product from a market-oriented view, and then your starting point are the needs and wants of the customers. Or you can define a product from the product point of view, and you're starting there from the technological or functional solution. Generally speaking, I would always advise you to use a demand-based or market-oriented definition of a business, as the customer eventually decides if we are successful or not with our business through buying and not buying. Let me give you an example. So here you see the approach market-oriented and product-oriented to define a business unit. 200 years or 300 years ago, we might have said we are the best horse and carriage producers. If we do this, we might, and we are very strict in our view and say we're only horse and carriages, we might be out of business. Because then after a while there was the railroad. Horse and carriages If you're still the best horse and carriage producer today, you might provide His Majesty the King with some horse and carriages, but possibly that's it. You're out of business. After the railroad came the automobile, and then, thanks to the likes of Ryanair and EasyJet, we can even fly very cheaply to any destination in the world. So you're very limited in your scope of business, your flexibility, when coming from a product-oriented definition of your business. If you, however, come from a market-oriented definition of your business, you have the flexibility. When you define yourself as we're the best provider for transportation, then you have the flexibility to change from horse and carriage to railroad, from railroad to automobile, from automobile to plane, and so forth. There are several tools for analyzing and planning strategic business units on a portfolio level, BCG matrix, McKinsey matrix, value analysis. Then for each business unit, SWOT analysis, analyzing and deriving a strong mission and vision statement and business objectives, or using frameworks like Porter's 5 forces, Porter's generic forces, and so forth. Here, I would like to focus on the BCG matrix and with it the product life cycle to explain what is of importance and what do you have to look for in international business and international marketing. Here's the explanation of the BCG matrix and its relation to the product life cycle in general. And the BCG matrix, you have two axes. On the x-axis is the relative market share. The relative market share is defined by our revenue divided by the revenue of the strongest competitor. And that tells us how strong are we in the market compared to our competition. On the y-axis is the market growth. That tells us how attractive is one market. Of course, a market with the outlook of massive growth, an expanding market, is more attractive than one that does not expand or even shrinks. And you have 4 quadrants. You have the question marks. We're relatively weak in our market share, in our competitive position, but the market has potential as the market is growing quite highly. There we have to select. We have to say which of these businesses are we actually using or are we going for, and then in these businesses you need to invest. Assuming you're successful with this, happy days. You have a top market share, better than your top competitor. The market is still growing. That is a star. So we want to hold our position, and of course we want to make money. So get some profits out. Everything in this world comes to an end. So the market growth may slow down. Then, when one is down, our business to be a cash cow. Here we're still very strong. We have a high relative market share, but the market is not as attractive anymore as it is not growing anymore, or not growing so much anymore. Then our business, as I said, is called a cash cow. Here we want to get the profits out and reinvest these profits, normally into question marks to build the next stars. And then, as said earlier, everything comes to an end. At some point we lose market share, and then we have the poor dogs. We are poorly performing in the market has no future. Get rid of this business unit. Divest, eliminate this. And this corresponds, ideotypically, this BCG matrix with the 4 quadrants and norm strategies corresponds with the product life cycle. The product life cycle, which is on the bottom of the slide, is say time on the x-axis and sales on the y-axis. We introduce a new product, a new business idea to the market, slowly growth. Then the growth picks up pace, and this is a star. Happy days. Growth slows down. We're in a saturation phase, and this is called the maturity phase, corresponding with the cash cows. Finally, the market shrinks, our business, the market and our business is in decline, that corresponds with the poor dogs. Now let's come back to the international business. As I've said earlier, we have several products, like here product A, product B, product C, and we operate in several markets. To simplify, I only have country 1, country 2, country 1, country 2. And what we want to see is something, a Boston Consulting Group metrics with our business units or products, to be precise, product country combinations that looks like here on the right. We have a few product country combinations in the question mark quadrant, a few in the stars quadrant, a few in the cash cow quadrant. And of course, we do not want to have poor dogs. So that is a healthy portfolio. Now one could say, wait a minute, that is not so great. Why don't we all have cash cows or all stars? That is a bit of a problem. That is called an unbalanced product country portfolio. Because if you have all your product country combinations in the cash cow quadrant, sooner or later they will move to the poor dogs, and then unfortunately your company will go bust. So that means we always need to develop new products and or new target markets out of the question marks to become stars. Otherwise, in the long run, our company will not survive. So with regard to the product life cycle, and one approach how you can do this, I will show you next. Before this, I have to say, of course, you need to go into innovation, research and development, and develop new products or develop existing products further. But you can also develop markets, and this is what I would like to show you now. From the perspective of a highly developed country or a company operating in a highly developed country, typical expansion into the world looks like you can see here in this slide. Again, it's the product life cycle with time on the x-axis and sales on the y-axis. We have one product, and we're having this product in our home country. And this works out absolutely marvelously. It's absolutely fine. So we think to ourselves, we have a good product for our home country. Why not exporting this to other countries and making some money there? Why shouldn't it work there? So if you come from the UK or France, Germany, Sweden, you would go to other European countries or the US, Australia, so other highly developed countries, and sell your product there. So before your product goes down the product life cycle in your highly developed country, you invest or you try to cultivate, you expand your operations to a developing country like India, China, and so forth. So then you have the product life cycle there again. And before the product life cycle goes down in these developing countries, you go into the less developed countries because they will, with, if you will, delayed economic development or delayed economic development, they will have a need for your product then. That was it to the perspective of the international product country portfolio. Now let's look at the individual products you bring abroad. So individually, for each country, creating value. First, to look at the international brand and product management. And as usual, what is a brand? And therewith brand management in general. So if you want to build a brand, what you need to have is a product. You put some lovely symbol name on this, so branding, then you have a branded product. Alongside the branded product, you throw the rest of the marketing mix, price, place, promotion, into the market. And based on your operations with the branded product and your marketing mix operations, the demand side, meaning your target group, your customers, potential customers, build awareness. They are aware, there is this brand. This awareness is the precondition for forming an attitude towards your brand or for establishing a brand image in the hearts and minds of your target group. And when does a customer buy a product? Half consciously, more or less consciously, a customer compares his or her needs and wants with the brand attributes. Can the brand attributes fulfill the needs and wants? If yes, brand preference is formed. I prefer brand XY. That is then the precondition for buying the brand and using it. This aspect of buying and using the brand has a backwards effect. So if I'm very happy with a brand, this strength, by using it, it strengthens the image or the attitude and also the awareness. I always have in the back of my mind, oh yeah, this is great brand. And as a company, we're not doing brand management just for fun. We're doing this to make money. And therefore, we also need to look at buying and using, especially buying with regard to us as a company, because we will have the economic effects, meaning we'll generate revenues and through this profits. If you would like to have this definition in writing, very simple and strong definition, then a brand is a product or a company that is distinguished from competitors by a target group and provides this target group with a desirable benefit. And benefit you can translate into utility or value to customer. How does brand management works? So again, in a simplified world, we want to bring something into the hearts and minds, a favorable brand we want to bring into the hearts and minds of a target group. To this end, we design a brand identity, which is exactly what do we want to bring into the hearts and minds of the target group. This is what we're doing in our company on the supply side. Then we translate this brand identity into brand operations, the product itself, the pricing, the distribution, our communication campaigns, and so forth. And with the brand operations, there is the point when supply and demand meet. And based on these operations, the brand image is formed. And the brand image is what the target group actually thinks and feels about our product, our company, our brand. And we have to work as brand managers in this cycle to optimize the brand identity, optimize the brand operations, so that in the market, for us favorable brand image emerges. In this context, one can understand brand positioning as follows. The figure on the left, you can understand the axis, x-axis and y-axis as brand attributes. Our brand is the navy blue brand. This is how we are perceived on these brand attributes. To be successful in the market as a brand, we need to position ourselves close to the preferences of the target group. You can translate the preferences of the target group as the ideal brand. The maroon bubble, this is what the target group wants. So we want to fulfill the preferences of the target group. Figuratively speaking, we want to position ourselves very close to the ideal brand, what the target group expects. A brand can, however, only be a brand if it is clearly distinguished from its competitors. And the figure represented by the Royal Air Force blue bubbles. So we want to maximize the distance between our brand and the competitor's brand. So we want to be clearly distinguishable from our competitors. And you do this on the level of brand attributes through two brand attributes. To distinguish ourselves, we have the points of difference. These are the attributes. We need to be number one. We need to stand out. We need to be the best. But with brands, it's the same as in life. and I hope I do not disappoint a narcissist who might be watching this video, you cannot be the best in everything. So on some attributes, we just want to be on a comparable level as our competitors. We're not the best, but we are okay. And these brand attributes are called the points of parity. I hope I could give you a basic understanding of what brand management is, what a brand is, what brand management is, and how it works. Now let's have a look how this, or what are the specific demands in international brand management. Keep the upper figure in mind. Brand identity, we transform the brand identity or translate the brand identity into brand operations, and then the brand image is formed. This same figure, slightly different organized, is here, brand identity that we define. Translate this into our brand operations, and then the brand image is formed. The brand image is formed within the framework of the culture of the target country. There are different understandings of norms and values, of symbols, and so forth in every country around the world. So we cannot one-to-one bring our brand identity into a target country. Normally speaking, we need to adjust our brand identity to get to the aspired and favorable brand image we want to see. Furthermore, we're in an international market and we're coming from some country, from the UK, from Germany, from France, and so forth. So the image of our home country has an impact on the brand operations and especially on the brand image, on the perception of the target group of our brand. And against this backdrop, you need to look at three aspects. Firstly, we have a brand identity in our home country, but this brand identity we need to translate into the cultural environment of our target country. In this context, it's rather overlapping. It's the second point. We need to ask ourselves how much of our brand and our product can we standardize, meaning we just throw what we have in our home country to our target country, and how much of our brand and product do we have to localize, in other words, adjust to the culture and the needs and wants, the tastes of the target country. And thirdly, how can we utilize the country of origin effect, so the image of our home country, to our advantage? Let's look at these points, and firstly, how to translate the brand identity into the cultural environment of our target country. As a reminder, this is what I elucidated on in the first part of this video lecture series. What is a culture? Culture comprises of the norms and values which are learned from and shared with a group of people, so that this group of people shows similar behaviors. And the culture in the countries around the world is different. This means for us that the tastes and preferences in target countries might differ, and normally they do differ, from those of our home country. They differ more or less. And I would like to give you a bit more, and we need to adjust to these different tastes and preferences. Of course, otherwise we wouldn't be successful in the target country market. And here I would like to give you an example, a successful example, which took localization quite a bit far, but also has the standardization within it. And that is McDonald's. So a few years back, I can't remember when this was, McDonald's, or the management of McDonald's, asked themselves very hard, should we go to India? It's a lovely market, there's so many people living there, there's a huge potential. Should we go there? Now look at McDonald's menu. It's predominantly beef burgers in the US and Europe, their home markets. The US, their home market, and then the first market expansion, one of the first, Europe, mainly beef burgers. It's not a good idea to offer beef burgers in a country like India, in which cows are sacred. So, this is why the McDonald's management thought long and hard. If you look at the McDonald's menu in India, you find veg burgers, McChicken, fillet o fish, veg, Maharaja Mac, and so forth. So you won't find a beef burger, but lots of vegetarian burgers, lots of spicy stuff, lots of curry burgers, and so forth. So what McDonald's did was they put their restaurants to India, still the fast food image, the American style, and so on, happy days, rather standardized. But they localized, adjusted their menu, and I believe this example makes very much clear that you have to localize. So, as I said, it's about standardizing and localizing. I want to dive a bit deeper now, how to standardize and localize. Better, what is your potential and your need for standardizing and localizing with regard to physical goods and to services. Now, standardizing, what we want to achieve is we want to optimize our cost through a simplified process, as everything is the same in the world where we're operating, happy days and economies of scale. The objective of localizing is we want to improving our meeting of the demand. We want improving sales through meeting the specific demand in a target country as we offer customized, localized products. And you can say, as a rule of thumb, what you want to achieve in international business is that you standardize as much as possible and you localize as much as necessary. And that is against the backdrop of the two aforementioned objectives of standardizing and localizing. Now, what is the standardizing potential and the localizing requirement for physical goods? Here's the example of a car. You can understand the product as having a core product, for instance, the engine with a car, extended features like safety features and so forth, the design, the form, the color, and these things, the branding like the Mercedes stars or Toyota, VW, and so forth, what they stick onto their cars, and you've added services like maintenance and repair. Now, typically, the further you are towards the core product, like the engine, there's a high potential for standardization. The laws of physics, how a car runs, do not magically change because we're going to India or Australia or South America, wherever we're going. They're all the same across the world. So the core product, typically speaking, there might be the odd one out, there you have a high potential for standardization. The further you go away from the core product, through extended product design, branding, added services, the more you need to localize and adjust to the specific conditions and needs and wants of your target market. Looking at services, it is the same. Standardizing with same objectives. Standardizing, we want to optimize our cost. Localizing, we want to improve our sales through better meeting the demand. And again, standardize as much as possible and localize as much as necessary. You can distinguish services between services that are focused on intangible products like information, internet services, banking, and so forth. Services which are focused on physical goods like car repairs, logistics, and so on. And services that are focused on people, education, healthcare, and so forth. Of course, you have exceptions, but typically speaking, the more you're on the top, information-based services or services focused on tangible products like search engines or so on, you have a high potential for standardization. Services focused on physical goods are somewhat in the middle. Of course, the physical goods have to be brought from A to B with logistics. But logistics are very much standardized. Just think of the containers. They're all standardized, they have standardized measures. So you can standardize a bit, but not to the fullest extent. And if you focus on people, there you probably have to localize. I can tell you, if I need to go to a physician, to my GP, it's very hard for me if this fellow is placed in New York City or San Francisco. It's a bit far away to travel across the pond just to have a medical checkup. It needs to be localized. Now let's have a look at the country of origin effect. As I've mentioned, the country where a product or brand comes from, or better, the image of the country a product or brand comes from, can have and normally has an impact on how this brand is perceived. And that is what is called the country of origin effect. And typically, the country of origin effect is utilized by made in USA, made in Britain, made in Germany, and so forth. And you need to use this country of origin effect correctly, or to the best effect. I want to make this clear with the example of Germany and France. What are people typically associating with Germany? World-class engineering, the best cars in the world, they come from Germany. The Germans are always on time, punctuality. The Germans do not have any fun. They're not fun to be around. This is not really lifestyle. They're just working hard. And that is all, and they're very disciplined. That's all what the Germans are doing. What is typically associated with the French? Oh, elegance, ooh la la, savoir-vivre. They know how to live. They have style. But do I want to buy a top-class machine from France? I would normally associate this with Germany. So what are well-known brands and products that can benefit from this German country image? Car manufacturers, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, or Bosch, or Siemens. They are strong German brands and they benefit from the German country of origin effect. Whilst in France, what do we all see in France and what are buying from France? Champagne, luxury stuff like Louis Vuitton, and so forth. It's rather having a good life than having the best machines in the world. And therefore, best machines, you have a better chance that the country of origin effect of Germany supports you, whilst having a top savoir-vivre lifestyle brand from Germany doesn't work out so well with regard to the country of origin effect. And in France, it's the other way around. That was how to create a value, a gross value for the customer. But essentially, it's the net value that is important. And from a customer point of view, how nasty I have to pay a price for a product. So we need to look, secondly, we need to look at international pricing. Let's have a look at pricing in general. Pricing contains of all the processes and decisions with regard to the price of the product. That is the main focus. But we also, when looking at pricing as managers, we need to look at what discounts are we giving, what delivery terms do we have, what payment terms. With regard to the price, do not only think on the price tag like in a supermarket that you pay at the cashier. It's a traditional price, but rents are prices, fees, wages, commissions. So pricing covers a lot of prices. And one should never forget, as a marketeer or marketing manager or even a business manager in general, pricing is the only instrument of the marketing mix that generates revenues. To be precise, that directly generates revenues. Directly, all the other instruments of our marketing mix, product, place, promotion, they cost something first and only indirectly can generate revenues. Now, perhaps most of you have heard from economics: the higher the price, the lower the demand, the lower the price, the higher the demand. And that might lead to the reflex: we want to sell more, let's get down the price. Generally speaking, be very careful with this, because there is a correlation between the price and the perceived quality. So on this figure on the right, we have the price level on the x-axis from low to high. On the y-axis, we have the perceived quality, perceived by the target group, from low to high. And what you normally only can do, work in the corridor that runs from bottom left to top right, because people think that a low price means a low quality, medium price means a medium quality, whilst a high price means a high quality. That means your leeway in pricing from a business management point of view is lower than you think. Of course, it's still the case, lower price, higher demand, but be careful. The leeway here and the effect of this price-demand relationship from a business point of view is lower than one thinks. Now, let's look at international pricing. Of course, as usual, pricing works the same internationally as it works at home in domestic marketing, but what you can do internationally is price differentiation. And the idea behind this is we charge in every country as much as we can. We get the maximum price out of the people that they can and that they're willing to pay. So international price differentiation means we're charging different prices in different countries. And the principle means in low-income countries, we have a lower price. So countries like Venezuela, Congo, Malawi, and so forth. And in high-income countries like Switzerland, the US, Sweden, Norway, we charge higher prices. And one example where you can see this is the Big Mac index. So a Big Mac in Switzerland cost $7.99. Norway, it's also not the cheapest, with $6.67, two high income countries. If you want to say what's with the medium income countries, like they're high income countries, but in comparison, medium income countries, Poland and New Zealand, there you have a price of $5.21. In Poland and New Zealand, $4.77. In comparison, low income countries like Vietnam and Philippines, you have a lower price for the Big Mac, with a bit more than $3 and $3.89 in the Philippines. By the way, this Big Mac index is used by some economists to determine the purchasing power of a country. But the idea, we charge a price depending on the willingness to pay and the purchasing power in different countries to get the maximum profits out. Which factors favor then price differentiation? On the other side, where do we have to go with a standardized price all over the world? If we have local markets like food or hairdressers, there we can charge individual prices, so we have price differentiation. Furthermore, if the products are very individualized in these countries, we can do this. And then the culture with the local tastes and preferences plays a role. Price standardization. We won't have much of a chance and have a standardized price globally if it's a global market and there's standardized products and the cultural influence is weak. For instance, arms. It's very much standardized. Of course, you localize a bit with your weapons so that they can be integrated in the armed forces of the country you're selling to, but in essence, it's a rather standardized product and a standardized price. And the same could be applied to power plants and similar rather B2B or B2G products. Now, that is for price differentiation, and this refers to the price itself. I earlier said that it's also the terms of delivery and payment that we have to consider. The terms in delivery and payment, they make clear or state when and where the product will be delivered, and when and how the price will be paid. For instance, half in advance, half after delivery, and whatever options you have. There's another perspective to these terms of delivery and payment. That is the perspective of ownership and risk. So when does the ownership and when does the risk of a product shift from seller, let's assume here it's an exporter, to a buyer, assume is an importer? To make this clear, or exemplify this, here is a German machine that is exported to Brazil. So when does the ownership and the risk shift from the German manufacturer to the Brazilian customer? Is it when the machine leaves the facilities, the premises of the manufacturer? Is it when it arrives or leaves the port in Germany? Does the ownership and the risk shift when the product arrives at the Brazilian port? Or is it when the product arrives at the customer? So that is also something that you need to sort out when looking at pricing policy in international markets. Finally, in this section, I would say some sort of a fun topic, and that is transfer pricing. So, international corporations have daughter companies that are operating around the world. And these daughter companies have business relations with each other, and so they have transactions. And they also need to determine prices that they charge between each other. That means transfer pricing is a method of profit allocation through pricing goods, services, and tangible properties offered by different daughter companies within a multinational corporation. And our objective with transfer pricing, from a company management point of view, is we want to evaluate the performances of our subsidiaries, and we want to coordinate these. The more fun part is we want to maximize our profits through tax optimization. And to explain this, I have a bit exaggerated example. Of course, the hardcore example will not be possible in this world. You would run into a problem, but I hope I can make the point clear. Let's assume we're producing in the Republic of Ireland, where we have an income tax of 12.5%. Our sales happen in the United Kingdom with a corporate income tax of 25%. Now let's have an example with actual numbers. We're producing 1,000 units of a product. At the end, we're selling our product for £20. That means we have a revenue, 1,000 times 20, of £20,000. Let's assume our total costs are £10,000. And that means revenue 20,000 minus £10,000 cost is a profit of 10,000. One could say now, all right, then it's fair enough. Our profit is split evenly to Ireland and the UK. And to achieve this, we have our 1,000 units. We have a transfer price of £10, meaning the Irish subsidiary sells the product or the product to the sales subsidiary in Britain for £10. Then the Irish revenue is £10,000 with a cost of £5,000. Let's assume it's even Steven. And we have a tax of £5,000. 12.5% corporate income tax in Ireland, is £625, which leaves us a profit after tax of £4,375. In the UK, 1,000 units, we're selling this for £20. That means we have a revenue of 20,000. Assuming we have cost of 5,000, then comes the transfer price, which is £10. £10 times 1,000 is 10,000. So we have a total cost of £15,000. And as our Irish subsidiary, we have a profit in the UK of £5,000. Now comes our 25% corporate income tax, which is £1,250. Our profit is £3,750. That means on corporation level, we have a profit after tax, and we put both tax together, we have a profit after tax of £8,125. Now, this is what we want to optimize. So it's a hypothetical situation that you actually cannot do in practice, but wouldn't it be lovely, as the Republic of Ireland has only an income tax of 12.5%, whilst the UK charges double that percentage. So we shift all our profits to the Republic of Ireland. And we do this by increasing the transfer price to £15. Then 15 times 1,000 is 15,000 minus our 5,000 cost. They don't change. We have a profit of £10,000 in Ireland. Tax 12.5% is 1,250. And a profit after tax is 8,750. The sales subsidiary in the UK sells £1,000, 1,000 units at a price of £20. So a revenue of £20,000, and nothing has changed to the original model. Our cost of 5,000 plus our transfer price. £15 times 1,000 is 15,000 plus 5,000 is 20,000. Revenue of 20,000 minus cost of 20,000 is 0. So we have no profit, we pay 0 tax, and after tax we also have no profit. So all our profits are moved to the Republic of Ireland. And that means now our profit after tax is 8,750 overall. So in comparison to 8,125, we have a bit more money in our pocket. Happy days. That is the idea of transfer pricing. And of course, this is too extreme, and I will show you in a moment what you have to do and what you can do with transfer pricing. But here, it's not the only reason why all these huge tech companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, and so on have their European headquarters in Dublin or other parts of the Republic of Ireland. It is because the income tax is very lovely there. And in Ireland, at least you used to get some reductions on this, so you even pay less taxes. So there's also, it's not only the reason that there's a good English-speaking, well-educated workforce in Ireland, it's also the tax optimization. Now, governments like the UK government or the French or the German government, they're quite obviously not quite happy with such extreme tax optimization measures through transfer pricing. So they want to prevent this tax optimization, or what some call tax evasion. They took measures, and the measures are transfer pricing standards. And the core principle of transfer pricing standards is the arm's length principle. An arm's length principle means within a corporation, two subsidiaries have to charge the same price that the one that is or would be normal on a free market. So on a market with unrelated entities. So if an external supplier, or if we with our Irish subsidiary would sell to an external buyer at a price of £15, then between the Irish and the British subsidiary, the sister companies, there should be the price of £15 and nothing else. That means it is a very good idea to come to transfer pricing agreements with tax authorities. Not that you run into some trouble and you're on the blacklist of some tax authorities and countries. But it's not always as easy as it sounds here to determine an external fair acceptable price. So yet there are several transfer pricing methods like the comparable uncontrolled price method. That is what I've just explained. The transfer price is the price, the same product, of the same product the subsidiary sells to an unrelated buyer. Resale price method is deducing the transfer price from the resale margin of an uncontrolled sales company. Profit split method is the allocation of profits based on the contribution of the subsidiaries to the overall offer that you bring into the market. And there are several more. It's a funny, or yeah, it's a fun subject. So you might dive deeper into this, but in this crash course is probably not. I would go a bit overboard or over the top to dive really deep into this. Anyway, that was creating value in international markets. If you look at the marketing mix, it was product policy and pricing. The next lecture will be about delivering value in international markets, so the distribution and the terms of the marketing mix place. Until then, I wish you all the best, and it is bye bye for now.